Good afternoon, everyone. This is Omar Riaz here, and I am going to be presenting a really brief presentation on the use of cloud storage within your schools. I noticed that groups had not signed up for this topic, and it is extremely important for running a school site nowadays. So I felt it would be important for you to get some information about how cloud storage can be used. Now, I understand cloud storage is a uh, pretty common use as far as what we use today. Many of us use Google Docs, we use Dropbox or Box. If you work for a major organization, you might even use the Microsoft suite of apps and OneDrive. So this is not necessarily explaining what cloud storage does. We all know cloud storage is a way of storing or saving your files on the cloud. In other words, not physically on a local device, but in the cloud where you can access it online. Instead, I wanted to speak to you about the power of digitization when it comes to cloud storage. And that's really why this is so important today. So the first thing that I want to mention is how important it is for us to collect data and to store it online so that we can share it across our organization. I'll share an example with you in a few minutes. When I'm talking about the cloud, of course, I'm talking about the documents the services that I had just mentioned, whether it's Dropbox, Google Docs, or OneDrive. I tend to use Dropbox, and I'll explain why, because of something called Dropbox and its integrations. Some of the other cloud providers do have similar aspects, but I tend to prefer Dropbox. And then I want to share as well the power of something free as Google Docs in creating documents online that can be shared with other individuals within the organization. Finally, I won't go delve too much into this, but it's important that when we have analog documents, our paper documents, in essence, it's important to get those to a cloud format, a digitized format that we can put them on the cloud and save them there. So as a principal, I often used a scanner to scan all of our documents within the office, and that allowed me to share it with all of our secretaries and any other stakeholders that we needed. So although I have no affiliation with Fujitsu, I highly recommend for schools to use scanners, and when they do, I recommend the Fujitsu ScanSnap because it is a great tool that allows you to scan several documents at one time. So I want to share again how I've used Dropbox in the past. Something that schools normally do when not under a COVID distance learning shutdown is send documents home with students. So something that I normally had established with my secretary was a shared folder. And this shared folder, every week I would drop a document into this folder, or documents into these folders, and my secretary knew that these were the documents that were going to be sent home with students. So at my school, as well, I was a principal at Broadmoor. We tended to send all of our documents that we sent home with students on Tuesdays. So what I normally did is I had a folder for every Tuesday, and I would just simply drop those documents into that folder. And my secretary knew that on a Tuesday morning, she would open that folder and just print out those documents to be sent home with students. Of course, the great thing about this is you don't have to be at the physical school to place documents into someone's inbox or physically hand them to someone. It can happen behind the scenes while you're at home or when you're at another meeting, and you think about having to send something to the school in general. This is a great way to do this. It also builds capacity at your school site, because you don't need to remind someone that it's Tuesday and this is what we need to do. If you have an established procedure or routine, the individuals at the school can come into this folder and find the individual documents that need to be sent home. As you can see here where it says members, I also shared this with my assistant principal, so she also had access to drop documents into this folder. So this was also a great way to build capacity as far as an assistant principal or other individuals within the school site. I mentioned integrations. One of the things my secretary did every morning, she was also our substitute locator, is she would add individuals to what we call an absent roster. This absent roster was really simple. It just indicated those individuals who were absent, who were going to be absent in the school that day. The great thing about Dropbox is my secretary would drop this document into the Dropbox folder. However, upon dropping it into that folder, I would receive a notification on my phone that this file had been updated. The benefit of this is as a principal, I didn't have to keep looking into the folder, searching for the file every morning to see if that file had changed. I would just wait to receive the notification, and once I received that notification, I can just pull up the document. The way this works was using a program called If This Then That. You can see the acronym down here. It's a free program that ties into existing services. So whether it's Dropbox, I believe it also works with OneDrive. And all that this program did was to see, and it looked for a specific file folder structure, and it sent me a notification. It was a push notification that was sent to my phone or my computer or my tablet, letting me know that the absent roster was updated. Again, this saved a lot of time, and it was great because you didn't have to be tied to a desk to get this type of information. It was sent directly to your phone or a tablet, and it had updated information about who was going to be absent that day. I can't explain explain how important this is as a school principal to have this type of information on a mobile device. I mentioned Google Docs. Google Docs was used at our school school-wide in the way that we collected data on our students' assessments. Here you can see an example of their biweekly assessments, but we also use this to capture data from DI and also intervention. Every teacher in our school had access to this document. So individual teachers would input information, and everyone in the school site could access it, whether it was a reading coach, our math coach, or our assistant principal. In fact, we also provided this information to our school psychologist so that they can pull information as well. As I mentioned before, this data was extremely beneficial to have online as opposed to having it sitting on someone's desk. We found that by using this data and meeting during collaborative planning meetings, whether it was with our teachers or taking it to our school psychologist to decide whether students needed to be moved on within the MTSS process, all of the data sitting on the cloud was extremely beneficial to us. When we look at school closures as we're having now with COVID, you can see where this also is extremely helpful. You have access to data on a computer instead of having to visit a school site or search through teachers' folders to understand how a student is doing in school. We also use Google Docs to capture our walkthrough data. So again, Google Docs is based on the cloud. The way we did this is we created a Google Docs form, basically, that my assistant principal and I clicked on every time we conducted a walkthrough, and we had real-time data about the type of walkthroughs that we were holding within our school. Our walkthrough was created by our team, and it was done to reinforce what we were looking for within our school. So we were able to identify in our school the FEI, or the framework of effective instruction, that we used in order to as an objective or a focus when we walked into our individual classrooms. Again, this is something that's easy to do and can be done using Google Docs and any cloud-based management file system or program. Finally, I know our schools do not use ConnectEd messages anymore. We now use something called School Messenger, but they both have the same implementation or application as far as recording voice messages. Our school system uses these to send messages home. And it's usually a very laborious and drawn out process where you have to type in a series of numbers and then pick up a landline phone and record your message into the system before then sending it out. Most of these systems have an option to upload your audio. So normally what I would do, uh, I would record myself with the recording and saving it to the cloud and then uploading it into the system. The benefit here is when you're using the system as it's designed, where an individual has to record their recording and then upload it based on the recording of a landline telephone, it has to be done again sitting on a computer and at a desk. However, this is really powerful when you use the cloud, because you can see how potentially you can have a teacher upload a message to the cloud and then have them send that message to you, and you can send that message on their behalf. This is great when you're addressing a segment of your students. So for example, whenever we had a meeting for our fifth grade parents regarding a special trip or a special assembly that we were going to have, it was easy to find the grade level chair. Instead of having to bring them into the office or my office to have them record the message, I can simply ask them to record it on their phone and then upload it to the cloud. And then using the upload audio, I would be able to upload it, send it to those parents, specifically using the teacher's voice. So again, these are some examples of how to use cloud storage within our schools today. If you have any questions or any additional comments, please feel free to share within the comment section. Thank you.